Welcome back to the Own It Show. Happy Friday. I am so happy, thankful, and grateful to be here with all of you with our special guest and friend of mine and my psychic counselor, Thomas Trafford from the Cedarwood Sanctuary. So, hi, Thomas. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Heather. Thanks so much for having me back. I'm so excited to talk to you as always.
Yes, having you back. We've had you on the show before, Mastery Tips and Tricks show as well. The Own It Show. Thomas is a wealth of knowledge. You guys have to make sure you click on that link and learn more about him. But first, you tell us more about you and your journey. How did you get to be the owner of the Cedarwood Sanctuary?
Absolutely. Thank you. So yeah, I am the Cedar Sanctuary. I'll just give you a little bit about that first. I help my clients grow towards grateful, authentic living through gentle self-reflection, energetic principles, and a connection to source and spirit. My story is average in many ways and not in many others. In 2010, I lost 4 people within 6 months who were really close to me. I was deep in grief. I was working a full-time job that didn't value me. I had lifelong anxiety, but that grief really brought it to the forefront. It was more than I had capacity for and could handle. And so on top of that too, I also was still under an operational belief that I needed everyone to like me and I needed to do a certain thing and be a certain way. And so all of that suddenly felt like a sham, in those big emotional moments and in grief, you sort of have a little bit of a reckoning with yourself. And I realized how sort of toxic that non-authentic living was, and that it wasn't serving me at all. And it wasn't, in fact, as I dug into it, who I even was. So ever since then, I've been on a dedicated path to healing through unlocking, my innate powers of consciousness, accessing my full potential, and using all parts of the powerful, multidimensional spiritual self that we all are to gain mastery and joyful, aligned living.
I love it. So you're helping people gain mastery in joyful, aligned living. And often we have to experience our own journey to get there so that we can turn around and teach it. So through all that you've been through and all your learnings, you've really just dove in and been able to turn around and support so many people to level up their life and their consciousness and feel supported doing it. So I love what you do. I love the work that you do and the people that you get to help and who you are in this world, just to bring that level of consciousness and energy for everyone. And today we have so many great tips from you to really truly help people to step into that alignment. So, what would you say is your number one tip? And let's dive right on in.
Sure, absolutely. I'm so excited to go through these. I've been having a lot of conversations with you and many other people about what's going on right now. The energy is a little wild out there. Yeah, just a little, just a bit of a roller coaster from the earthly things that are going on the planet to even galactically. We were just talking about a full moon coming up, followed by a solar
Yeah.
eclipse
Yeah.
that we haven't had in so long. So there's a lot of energy swirling about. And so I think the number one thing for us all to remember at the moment is it is the energetic Wild West out there. And so we need to make sure that we can hear ourselves in all of the noise. That soul searching, that turning in is going to be very needed, I think, for all of us in right now and in the coming days. And we need to sort of be able to figure out how we are. And that comes with that self-awareness comes with some gentle self-love needs to happen in there, because we often, with our limiting self-beliefs or the way that we sometimes don't even have time, we think we don't have time to even think about how we are.
Mm.
And that can catch up with us in sickness and disease and burnout and things like that. So taking the time every day to really cultivate and covet that relationship with yourself, to hear your inner voice, whether or not all practices aren't for everyone, but if there's some yoga or some journaling or meditation, or you're just sort of taking a few minutes to have 3 deep breaths and go how am I, and with real honesty and letting that voice, that inner voice, that deep, gut sort of sacral voice be heard. And it doesn't have to be in control. It doesn't have to necessarily be leading the show, but it has to have a seat at the table. And so I find being able to check in daily, even hourly, these days, I'm doing it almost every half an hour, but just being how is now going? How am I doing? And really reassessing. We often will sort of act from, emotions or places that we don't even realize why we're saying what we're saying or doing what we're doing. So making sure you can hear yourself and all that noise and what you really need. Sometimes it's rest, sometimes it's activity, sometimes it's turning off the phone and turning out the world. Sometimes it's diving into it. It's going to change. As we said, the energy is very this right now. So that's another reason to always be checking in, right? With the self, is just because it's going to change, flip flop, and you need to know where your deepest self is at any given time to be able to navigate.
I love that. And one of my favorite sayings is to slow down to speed up. And Absolutely. It's what people are afraid of. We're so used to being human doings that we think the only way to get more, be more, and have more is to do more. And so I always like to say, but what would happen if you paused and went internally just to make sure that what you're doing is in alignment with your highest good, so that when you get there, you're happy. And fulfilled. And so I absolutely second that, slowing down to speed up and making sure that the life that you're building is authentic to what you love. But how do you know what you love if what you think you love is just what you've been told to love? And so the only way you can truly build a life in alignment is to pause and sit and hear that inner voice. And so I love how your number one tip is to be able to mine the energetic Wild West, because there's the condition. Just quickly, right? We have the ego. It's trying to keep us safe. We have our conditioned belief, our personality. So this is who you've been conditioned to be. So what you think you're supposed to love. And then there's the higher self. And that's where you're saying to pause, to listen, to hear that voice and not all the other voices. And then there's tons of external voices. Society saying it should be like this, do it like this. This is crazy. But we were just talking about how we know if you know where you're going.
Right.
All of those other voices, all that external noise doesn't affect your equilibrium.
Right.
How do you know where you're going if you don't pause to slow down, to speed up, to go inward? Right. So I love it. Incredible tip. And everyone don't really like that. Everyone has available to them to build their own tool belt. And so what is that toolkit, that tool belt, that breath work, meditation, and yoga? There's tons of different types of meditation. So you can do fast yoga, slow yoga, you can do walking meditation, you can do sitting. Running is a form of meditation. So if you're like, yoga is not for me, cool, go run and just say an affirmation, or just be in the now. That's a form of meditation, because our access to ourself, our higher self, is only in the now. And so the things in the tool belt are what really truly bring you back to the now. So what can you put into that tool belt to help you have smooth sailing through that energetic Wild West? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And that higher self as well, like if you think about it, who has your back more than that higher self, right? And who might be able to see further down toward the horizon, that knows why you incarnated, what your soul mission is, and what you're here to do. And so a lot of that noise that we're trying to hear through is more of what we've collected while being in body on the earthly journey. So getting that calm, getting that place where we can hear that voice, because that voice, your oversoul, has your back more than any other entity you can probably interact with, right? So trusting that and allowing that, that's going to be good.
I love it. Your higher self has your back. You just got to trust it and align with it. All right, so let's dive into tip number 2. Find your joy and cultivate it regularly. So what does that mean, Thomas?
Absolutely. So and back to that higher self as well. Like we know when we glow, we know when we're on, right? When we have those moments.
Oh, I'm feeling on today. I love having Thomas on the show.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, we know when we're activated. We know when we're like in that zone. Athletes call it the zone, right? And like you're in that sort of performance high. You're like, I see it. Even if no one else does on the field, I see exactly where I need to step to make the goal line, right? And wow, look at me with sports analogies. Surprising even myself. But it makes sense, right? And so like that and we're all different. We're all individual snowflakes, and we all have different things that sort of spark joy within us. And I think it's hard as adults. I think we don't play anymore, right? We're not really allowed to, or we don't feel that we're allowed to. So taking the time to sort of experiment around and find the thing, and it could be running, it could be knitting, it could be like literally doing nothing, just practicing, just being still, swimming, whatever it ends up being. There's something that will create that spark in you, and I don't know how else to say it, but everyone listening knows when you click into that moment and you're like, oh, I'm here. This really lights me up.
The liveliness, the enthusiasm to life. Like you said, it's the thing that lights you up. And how do you call
the creativity that comes? Yeah.
Yes.
It's a flow state, right? You're really entering a flow state energetically. And so, yeah, it lights you up. It turns on your inner lighthouse. And that makes the spirit big. It makes the spirit happy and joyful. And it gives it clarity. I think when you enter that flow state in that creative space or whatever it is that's giving you that joy, what you're actually doing is also raising your vibration. You're getting your earthly conscious daily thoughts closer to that oversoul and your soul mission. So you're sort of you blast yourself up into the clouds by doing something that gives you joy, and you're like, oh, you know what? I do need to make a change to the way that I'm eating. Oh, you know what? There's a clarity in that. So to me, cultivating the joy is it's protection in a way, because it's going to galvanize you. It's giving you more things in the tool belt. It's thickening your skin for the energies of the Wild West and that the world is throwing at you. You know, it's energetic sunscreen, whatever you want to say for it. But that joy is giving you that bubble of light that you can carry through the world, and then it fills your cup so that you're able to fill other people's cup, and that's what we ultimately need in this world.
I love that. So, Thomas, has a question for you. What fills and what lights your inner lighthouse that literally creates an energetic sunscreen layer to keep the negative energies of the Wild West out of the dualities through the transition of humanity for the dense energies that came here to experience that? Maybe that's not part of your experience. So, what are you going to do to light your lighthouse to be in that state of flowing creativity and joy and positivity? Because we can only entertain one at a time: fear, negativity, possibility, and joy. So
Exactly right.
How can you get into that joy and cultivate it? And I have two sets of cards that I like to pull, and one is the mermaid cards. And what kept coming up, like literally, I can't tell you how many times, it was like so many days in a row, was to make a play date with a friend.
Right?
Is this your advice? Like, I want to go do something and create something. It was like, go play, go play, go play.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And the other thing I want to say to that too, that just came to me, is that like, we need to be aware of how much we will remove those things that give us the joy first on the list, right? We feel overwhelmed and we feel like we don't have a lot of time, and we're like, oh, you know what? I shouldn't go play with that friend. But what I'm saying, my tip is that the opposite, make it the first thing on that list, because you do feel you recharge your battery and you refill your cup, and so you have capacity for the rest of it, right? And without the joy, you just start to slide downhill. The resentment grows, the fatigue grows, that feeling of unwell or dis-ease grows, right? And so if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're like, oh, I can't give myself permission to, I'm saying you do. And you need to, honestly, truly, to be able to guide yourself through the energies of now. Find yourself a little bit of joy, right? If it's baking cookies, you know, and like, it's like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna take 25 minutes, you know, and do it. And it's like a good workout. It's a workout for your soul in a way. And so it'll really help.
for me, one is actually cooking good, healthy meals. I love cooking and feeling good vibes and like giving good affirmations while I make my stews. And it's like a form of meditation for me. And then I get to enjoy that as well after. So it's very nurturing for my soul and my body. So find what brings you joy and then cultivate it and put it in your schedule regularly. And absolutely, it should be the last thing on the chopping block.
Yeah.
And the first thing that fills your cup, that allows you the capacity to do all the other things and take care of all the other people in your life. But first, it requires a full cup. And that requires you to be in a state of joy and possibility.
And we all know we're our best when we're in that state of joy, right?
Yes, yes. And we have so much patience, and that layer of skin is so much thicker for all the nonsense that comes your way.
Yeah. And so the other thing,
stuff.
yes, exactly. And so then the other thing that I would really want to hammer home to the audience is that you deserve that joy. So don't ever think that you don't. You deserve that joy, and find a way to cultivate it and give it to yourself, because you should come first.
Yeah, it should come first. And right now, not you have to go do something to earn it. Like you've done your human experience.
100%.
That's it. It is your birthright.
Yeah.
I love it. So let's own that birthright, and let's be in the ebb and flow of the energies of the moment, surrender and release and pivot. So Thomas, this is tip number 3 from you. So please do elaborate.
Yeah, so I think this one touches a little bit on how to navigate the energies of now. And so there are really 2 things that keep happening. There's a swell of boundaried energy happening on the planet. Pluto is back into a place that it hasn't been in since the French Revolution and the American Revolution. So that same sort of energy of change, that change making energy is thick on the planet right now. And the way that we're experiencing that, I'm not sure if it's happened to you, definitely to me and many people I'm talking to, the patience is lower than it usually is. The quickness, the reaction time, like so right under the surface, there's sort of some molten lava. There's some anger energy there, but the thing to do with that, the way to yield that to your best, for your best self and for your highest good, is not to give into the emotion of the anger, but to use that as fuel to drive your action, right? And so that's going to help you with your boundaries. It's going to help you in those conversations. You're going to be like, I'm sorry, I cannot do that. That is a no for me. That does not serve me right now. So that sort of fuel that's coming from the change making energy is really, it's really going to help you be able to sort of define your reality. You're defining with those boundaries, like, I am not doing that. And it's not an angry, it's not anger. It's like, it's a decided, it's a very decided action, right? Yes, it's discernment. And so that power, that fuel is really helpful there. That's going to be one thing. And then if we want to give it the yin, the yang, the other one is the surrender. So it seems strange because they don't really necessarily go together, but I know that everyone watching this knows exactly what we're talking about. The other thing that's happening now is unexpected things in the energies of now, right? Unexpected stuff's popping up. People are popping up from your past. Things that you're not necessarily, like, you weren't planning on your day going this way, and suddenly it's a little derailed. But the surrender becomes important there, because instead of giving in to scratching the itch of a bad reaction, or screw it, then flip the table, I'm done, throw in the towel, which I get that, I absolutely get that. But the surrender is allowing the flow to come in. I'm using a lot of words recently, like fluidity, liquid, flow state. So we have to be able to sort of have smoother corners and roll and bend and fall, and that's really hard because it involves relinquishing control, which a lot of people don't like to do, right? And those two things together, I think, if you find yourself in a situation where you go to say or do what you want to do, but you realize that's sticky, and I'm going to say something I don't mean, I'm going to betray who I want to be on the planet, I'm going to maybe I should take a second and revisit my tool belt so that I come at this from a better approach. That's sort of the surrender energy. It's like, you know what, it is what it is, and sure, and I find myself here, and how can I handle this moment with grace and love and light, and then in the moments where no, I can't actually get to that place of fluidity, I can't get to that place of surrender, I'm putting my heels down. This is right. So we're sort of learning when we're giving one side of it and when we're allowing the flow, and we're releasing stuff that we know is not important and doesn't serve us. We've been holding on to a lot more than we need to in our energy field. So you need to keep the waters moving through your energy field right now. You need to be able to be like, look, these are the things I really care about, so I'm going to be boundaried and have discernment there. And the rest of it, that can flow, because I trust where I'm going. I trust my oversoul. I trust in all of humanity, and as much love and light as I can muster. Right.
I love that. And what Thomas is really saying, there's the yin and the yang energy. So people also say the feminine divine and the masculine energy. And I'm not talking male or female, I'm talking energetics on an energy level. So the female divine allows the flow and the flow to come in, and where the masculine energy, that's kind of like we get stuff done. And when we're setting boundaries, something comes up to trigger something that makes us uncomfortable, which is what Thomas is saying, where that masculine energy comes in, and instead of shooting it back to be angry, we're actually going to go into the feminine, pull from the tool belt and go, okay, well, what is that triggering? What can I learn from here? What would I prefer? And is there a boundary for me to set place? Because a lot of the times people are afraid to say no, and set that healthy boundary because of what other people think. But that's where that masculine energy comes in. But we can do it with the feminine divine for what's in the highest good of all involved. So that's really being in the ebb and flow, knowing when you need to be in the feminine divine and just let it flow off your shoulder, and when you need to be in that masculine and set that boundary and be like, I know my worth. So he was saying anger as a message for action, and both of these things, the release and the surrender, but yet the action as well, that's like your feminine and your masculine, they're both require your attention to help you heal and be that authentic version of you.
Absolutely. And that circles back to the first tip, right? Because you have to hear yourself in all of that noise. So if you're in a situation where you're like, which one do I do? Like, I have my tool belt and I have, I can feel my feelings, but I also have this reaction, and it's the masculine divine and the feminine divine. You go like, wait, what am I really doing here? Right? And so the reason that I put that all on the attention to your healing is like, if you're not in a practice of self-awareness for your healing and your thoughts, your beliefs, your attitudes, where they came from, who gave them to you, who modeled them for you, and why, like, so it helps you to figure that out, right? You have to hear your truth in all of that, because those are layers of other people's ideas and thoughts. And my friend in high school thought, and I thought she was so cool. So I, like, all of that stuff. It's not the voice that's in, right? So coming back to that, hearing yourself and all the noise and being like, right. So since I want to be this person, and since I want this to be my outcome, this moment is not for the decided action. This moment is for the surrender. And, it helps you choose which one.
Yeah. Which energy to be in and when, and what's in your highest good. It really does take the first steps to be able to hear that higher self. And when we are in a state of joy and we're in presence, we are so much more connected to that. And then it's a choosing where to be in that feminine or the masculine, or finding the balance between the both, so that we find the balance between the yin and the yang, so we can be our authentic selves, live our highest good, and live our best life, because that's what we came here to do. That's your birthright, to live a life of peace and heaven on earth right here, right now. It's just, are we willing to do what it takes to grow and cultivate it?
Absolutely. Exactly. Well said.
Yeah. And so what I always love to finish off with now is the book that you read or listened to that has, or even used as a study guide, that has made the biggest impact positively for you in your life. What would you say it has been?
Well, there are two, but I will give you one. It is called The World Unseen. I actually have a copy of it over there, but I don't remember the author. I will give the author notes to you to put up afterward. But The World Unseen, it's a channeled book that someone wrote from someone who had crossed over to the spirit world and was sort of reporting back on what they found. In the beginning of my work, I consumed that, and I just spent so much time thinking about life after death. I'm an intuitive counselor and a medium, right? I talk to spirit all the time. So I know that when your body ceases to be, you do not cease to be. And so where are they going and what are they experiencing? And so some of the wisdom that's come back to the physical world from the non-physical world, that lovely people have been able to hear and channel from the subtle realms and write down for us. The World Unseen really gave me it really allowed me to plant deep roots of my faith and my belief structure, and to understand the connectivity of all, and to understand that this is a phase in life, just like childhood or toddlerhood is, being in the body. It really opened up my view of the world and the cosmos and all the heavens. And so, it really hammered home a lot of things and gave me a lot to sort of chew on mentally. So it was great. I still work my way through it sometimes, and I would definitely recommend it.
I love it, because we don't know what we don't know, right?
Absolutely. Exactly. Exactly
Until
right.
you learn it. And actually, I just watched a video recently about a preacher who didn't believe in any of that. He almost died. He went into a coma. He saw his sister, who he had never met, because he was adopted. She helped him on the other side. He comes back. He goes, I got to find out who this woman is. Goes to find out all about his early, sees the picture. That was his sister that he had never met, who had passed. And now he brings all of that into what he does, and he would have thought. So what I'm seeing being birthed right now is like theology and science and spirituality and spiritual science, a whole new realm being birthed.
Right. Quantum physics, quantum mechanics, like all of that. Yeah.
And it all intertwining. So guys, you don't know what you don't know. This episode is so good. We talk maybe a little quickly, so maybe you need to go back and do a double check. But whatever you do, make sure you click on that link and you book us this free gift from Thomas. It's cord cutting session, right? So quickly, Thomas, where can they book? What is that going to give them? Give them a one-liner, and then we'll wrap up the show for today.
Absolutely. So cord cutting is not what some people think it is. They think it's like, putting a hex on some, I have an ex and I want to cord cut him. But what cord cutting really is energetic tether is what you're cutting. And so it can be someone that's still in your life, someone you love, a good friend, a family member. or a situation. It could even be like a physical object, but you're like, I keep circling back to that in my thoughts. Every time that comes back, my heart feels heavy and I get a feeling in my stomach. That's the energetic tether. That is, think of it like, stuck energy in your energy field. So things aren't flowing, right? Like a clog in the pipes. And so cord cutting, really that practice, which is very personal, and you can set it up exactly how you need it to. It allows you to sort of just cut that energetic tether, and it frees you to release that stuff out of your auric field, and then more light and love and capacity and dreaming and manifestation can come in to fill its place. So I think it's a very worthy practice, and it's one we should all have in our tool belts.
Absolutely, absolutely. I use it myself and highly, highly recommend it, because Simeon Kirlian perfected that, photographing your energetic body in the 1960s. So just because we cannot see doesn't mean it's not playing an impact. So let's clear the energetic and the physical. Let's work with the yin and the yang. Let's learn how to integrate it so we can live authentically and live our highest self. So thank you. Such a great episode, Thomas.
Oh, you're welcome. It was such a pleasure. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Absolutely. So guys, make sure you click on that link. It's time to clear your energies and step into that best version of you. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Remember, stay happy, healthy, wealthy. What is the best that can happen? And may you expect magic and miracles. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.